time I was late, like 15 minutes late to one of the empathy circles, and it said like the meeting was closed. So are you going to close the meeting?
No,
now?
I'm not going to close the meeting at all.
Okay.
So if people come in, we'll just have to, you know, if another 6 people come in, we'll have to go to breakout rooms, and we'll have to be flexible. But generally, the meeting's open unless I closed it and I didn't even know I did it. So I'm not an expert here. So that's, but I know that I did not close the meeting. So it'll be open the whole time. Okay. All right. So today we're going to be discussing what reason feels like. Eva will be doing the introduction, so I'll just give it to Eva.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm excited to welcome Bill from San Francisco Bay Area to Toronto Philosophy Meetup Group. Bill and his friends have been doing empathy circle groups for a long time, and they were so kind to join in this meeting to show us what empathy circle looks like with their suggested subject. What does reason feel like to you? And Bill, would you like to tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name is Bill Filler. I'm here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a retired special education teacher of 40 years. And that's one of the reasons why I think that the empathy circle is such an effective tool. You know, I like long walks on the beach and the rest of the stuff that most of you like. And I love puppies. Okay. Alex, why don't you do an introduction?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Eva. So my name's Alex. I think just looking here at everybody who's here, I think we know each other. But just to say a few words on behalf of the Toronto Philosophy Meetup. So it's the first time we're doing an online event. So it's kind of an exploration for us, and it's pretty exciting. Very curious to see how this is going to go. So Bill, thanks for facilitating and bringing your expertise, and thanks to Eva. So Eva's been thinking of hosting this meeting for some time, and she's been mentioning, you know, Zoom is a great platform, and it's there's a lot that we could be gained from technology. So it's pretty exciting that this is finally happening. So thanks, Eva, for putting it together and, you know, bringing all the resources. Toronto Philosophy Group's been around for a few years, and you know, we put on meetings, as most of you guys know. You know, it's on philosophical topics, but considered very broadly. So this fits in our mission and our agenda. So it's going to be great to explore. And you know, I think there's a lot of need for exactly these kinds of skills right now. You know, active listening and just being open to one another, and it's something that we try to nurture in our meetings. And so it's be great to have this connection. So I'm excited, and just gonna pass it over to Eva or Bill or whoever is gonna take over.
Okay. All right. So why don't we do just a short introduction? And welcome to Rob. And so Maurice, do you want to kind of tell us just your name, where you are, and what you might hope to get out of the meeting?
Hi, everybody. I'm Maurice. I'm in North York, Toronto, in my bedroom. Yeah, I already warned my partner not to come in here just because he's done that before, and usually not. Sometimes straight out of the shower. So it'll be interesting for everybody because I told him the video was on, so don't do that.
Increase our views. All right.
And what I hope to get out of this afternoon is I do my best to try and practice deep listening, active listening, but I can always learn more and become better at it. And I find sessions like, not necessarily like this, I've never been to a circle before, but they can be really useful because I learn a lot from other people and try to incorporate whatever I've learned into my daily life or my interactions with other people.
Great. Marty? Same thing. So just your name, where you are, get out of there.
My name's Marty Marini. I'm in North York as well, just in my office. Just to let you know, I'm actually doing this through my phone, so I hope everybody can hear me okay.
Yes.
And one thing that I am not very good at is active listening, so I'm really hoping that this will help me with that. Thanks.
Great. Okay. And Candace, same thing. Name, area, and what you hope to get out.
Okay, so my name is Candace Joseph. I'm in Scarborough, and I really do hope to improve my active listening skills because, you know, I feel like there's this great need for empathy, especially now that we're living in a time where there's tremendous like polarization, like political polarization and all of that. So plus I'm a nurse by profession, so it always helps to be able to listen to people actively and also increase my empathy skills, and that's why I'm here.
Great, thank you. Okay, and Rob.
Hi, can you hear me? So, am I there?
Okay, a little weird with your sound there, Rob.
Hey, what's happening?
I don't know. It seems like it's the bass is all the way up. We can understand you though. So go ahead if you. Oh, hold on.
The headset there.
Oh.
Okay.
Is that any better?
A little bit better. Seems like your microphone might be bad or something.
That thing all day long.
Okay.
Okay, so but you can understand me. So I'll just say I'm a North Etobicoke. I think the topic was reason.
Right. What does reason feel like?
Didn't feel like, yeah, that interested me. And active listening, I was involved in a group about 25 years ago that did a bit of that. This seems to be a different format, so, you know, I thought I'd give it a try.
Great, thanks. Okay.
Rob,
All
I'm
right.
wondering if you could keep the microphone a little away from your mouth. It might, because the sound was little, can you speak now? Maybe it might get better.
Okay, is this any better?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Just a little something. All right. We'll deal with it. Okay. All right. And so I'll give you a short verbal explanation of what the process is. Some of you I know have seen the videos. I know that Marty has. Has anybody else watched the videos?
Yes, I have.
Okay, great. All right. Great. So I'll try to be as brief as I can. Essentially, there are three roles in the group. There's the speaker, there's the active listener, and there are the silent listeners. And the basic idea, it's all based on Carl Rogers' reflective listening. So you can look that up, and you can find out where the derivation of this practice began. Sorry. So what you try to do essentially is to reflect the words, the feelings, and the values of the person you're hearing without, editorializing, without even your own sympathy. And what we believe, this is a tool, a very simple tool. And what we believe is happening here is there are some emotional processes and some other things that are not quite, visible on the surface that are going on. So we ask people to kind of trust the process. It's not necessarily the content itself, but it's actually the process is opening something up that maybe defies definition. So we just ask you to trust that. It's fine. We're going to take about a 5-minute time limit here. I guess, Eva, will you keep time?
Sure.
She has a timer. And then when she raises or you hear the bell, it's a soft close. It's not that you have to cut yourself off at that, but try to wrap up, maybe have a final reflection, and then we can move on. At any time, we can shorten or lengthen or even eliminate the time limit. It's right now, it's just to make sure that everybody gets an equal chance and gets heard. Let's see. Generally what we do, like in the first round, we try to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. So we go around and you kind of keep track. That's, generally. You may have a strong desire to talk to somebody. That's fine. We'll live. And then we can, but the idea is that then we'll get back on track with that. After that, everybody has that initial first round. Then it's always good to maybe mix it up, so you're not stuck to going around talking and listening to the same people. The idea is to mix it up and to get a sense of other people. Let's see.
Bill, could I ask just a quick question?
Absolutely.
So you said there, just to get it in my head, so there's the three roles.
Right.
Somebody, the person who's speaking, the person who's reflecting, and then everybody else.
Right.
And then it's the person who's reflecting who chooses who to talk to next. Is that
right?
Is that
Yes, you're absolutely right. Thanks, Alex.
Okay.
I kind of, I'm going a little bit out of order. So to address what Alex just said, essentially the speaker speaks. You have 5 minutes to talk about the subject or whatever is working you. There might be something that's off topic, and that's really what's working you. And if that's what comes to the surface, that's fine. These are guidelines. And so then the active listener then reflects. It's good if you're an active listener, it's not a contest, a memory contest. So feel free to raise your finger, stop the person, reflect. And the idea is to build a bridge, not to see who's the best memory or anything like that. So feel free to do that. And then the speaker should feel free to correct. No, that's not exactly what I meant. Do you really feel, heard? And so then once the speaker goes, the active listener then becomes the speaker. And then the speaker is one of the passive or silent listeners. And then they choose someone new, one of the silent listeners, to be the active listener, and so on and so forth. So we go around, it's speaker, active listener, and then the active listener becomes a speaker and chooses someone new. Does that answer your question, Alex?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Okay. Is that clear to anybody? Any questions about that? Okay, great. All right. Let's see if I've missed anything. No. So what we'll do...
Can I take a picture now? Is everybody okay with the picture?
It's okay for me.
Because I want to post this to the comment section, so maybe people might be curious to join next time, but it feels a little weird, so okay.
Can you see everybody in the
Yeah,
I can, and
Okay.
and would you like to wave, make it a little weird and funny too?
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. So anyway, so Eva and I will demonstrate how not to do a reflective listening. And we'll just take a minute, and then Eva will speak to me, and I'll make the mistakes so you don't have to. Okay.
So are you keeping time, or do I keep the time?
I'll keep the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I have, here we go.
Okay.
All right. We're just going to make this a real quick 1 minute, just for demo purposes.
Yeah. So Bill, will you reflect my conversation?
I'll be happy to.
Please? Thank you. I'd like to speak about Oscars and what Oscars mean to me. I've been a big fan of Oscars for years. And I was always curious, like, why do I like this event this much? Because in the logical way, it seems like too postmodern or too like representative of one kind of thinking.
Okay. Can I reflect?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you like the Oscars? You want to know how you're kind of fascinated about them, and you know what? I don't like the Oscars, and and I had some friends that were nominated in the Oscars, and and there's certain foods that I like when I watch the Oscars. Oh, there's our time. All right. So that's the thing, it would also be, oh, you like the Oscars? I like the Oscars too. Isn't that nice? You're really trying to keep yourself out of it. Essentially. And then if there is something that triggers you or you want to respond to, that's fine. When it's your turn, you'll be able to say whatever you want. So if Eva said something about me that triggered the Oscars, when it was my turn, I could talk about the Oscars. Okay? All right. All right, I think I've kind of gone through. Eva or Alex, is there any other questions, or is anybody else any questions or anything to add before we start listening?
I think we're good.
All right.
That I can think of, yeah.
All right, you guys, you're fast learners. All right. Okay. The subject is, what does reason feel like? That's the topic. And then, of course, if something is working you, let us know. It's good when you're not speaking just to kind of mute yourself, just so it helps eliminate stray sounds or something like that. But just kind of be aware of that. Who would like to start speaking today? Okay. No? Nobody? Okay. You can. All right. I'm going to go back to my time as a teacher. I'm going to have to call on somebody. This is embarrassing. I don't know. Okay. All right. So, Eva, let's do a round. So you want to speak to me, and then we'll.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
I'm starting timing. Reasoning. I never realized how reasoning had been important to me. And after I joined Empathy Circle group for the first time, and the subject there was reasoning again. And I realized I don't even know how to question my reasoning after talking about reasoning.
Okay. And so what I'm hearing is that you experienced the subject of reasoning in an empathy circle, and you had been recently thinking about it, and it's something that you're thinking about quite a bit, and it's a deep subject for you. Reasoning. What is reasoning? It takes a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
And I found that I want to filter my ideas, because with my ADHD, I found like I was reasoning a lot of things, and I was kind of like lost with my reasoning titles. So it was a process for me to really understand where I want to go with reasoning. And it seems like at least for now, I'm able to find a focus on reasoning, which is a big relief for me. I set up my priorities on the subject that I'm reasoning, and I question in a way of welcoming and loving perspective. Like, a good question to ask me on this is, what part of this issue or subject I want to keep with me.
Okay. This is something that you find, worthwhile contemplating, and also, very deep. And because of your learning challenge, you have to kind of like structure your thinking around it, so that it's easily accessible to you. And so then for that, you prioritize. And you've chosen as the main prioritized to come with a compassionate base And then I missed the other thing. There's something else that I missed there. What was that? Like you come in a compassionate base and what else?
Welcoming and loving perspective of where I want to go.
Okay. All right. So, okay. I'm sorry. Continue.
In a way, reasoning brought a lot of understanding and really questioning and loving the process or loving the situation. So I found myself bringing out more love with the process of reasoning.
Okay.
And I'm pretty proud of that.
Okay. When you were starting from this compassionate, perspective, and then you applied, analytical reasoning to that, it deepened your understanding and appreciation of love and openness and why you were doing it. And then you appreciated the complexity or the fine focus that the mental structures gave you.
Yeah.
And you're pretty proud of that.
Yes. And I always wanted to use open-ended questions in my thinking. And again, with reasoning and this process of really looking for love and try to filter my ideas, I find myself asking open-ended questions to myself. And that's inspiring for me. I feel that's a big difference, that I can bring that open-ended conversation asking process in my life.
Okay. So whereas, again, as I sense, because of your learning challenges, you had to make things in short kind of chunks. Now through this process and reasoning, you're actually asking open-ended questions and you're feeling a lot more comfortable with that process and you can see your own inner growth.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And then the time went off and that was not planned, people. That just happened. Okay.
So you can hear timing, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody can hear it. That's great.
So I got to test that too.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I feel fully heard, Bill.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to listen to you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So, Alex, would you listen to me?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. As reasoning goes, it was interesting because, and I love the idea of the feeling of reasoning, because it brings two things which are usually seen as polar opposites, our emotions and our analytical thinking together. I'll stop there.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that you seem fascinated, and you said that you love the idea that this is called the feeling of reason, where there are these two opposite aspects, feeling and reason, that are brought together, and usually we think of them as in separation.
Right. And I'm getting some feedback here. I don't know. Somebody can mute themselves or something. So there's something called, in my work, called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that was saying that if you want a student to learn, especially the students that I taught, which were behind, you had to make them feel safe. You had to feed them. They had to feel safe in so many ways. So for me, after 40 years of experience, I say the feeling of reason is emotional and physical security, safety. I'll stop there.
Okay, so you're referred to your time as a teacher and your experience as a teacher, and you've learned that to stimulate reason or to make reason possible, a student needs to feel secure, needs to feel a degree of safety. And so you mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs there. And so it's to you, this feeling of safety really is key to the feeling of reason.
Correct. Because if you're if you're feeling traumatized, or you're feeling that somebody's going to hit you in the next second, you don't know why, it's hard to focus on the math problem. I'll stop there.
Okay, so it's hard to focus on a math problem or anything a person may be reasoning about when there's a feeling of fear or worry that there might be danger, a person might be hit.
Right. Or a feeling of hunger. And that's a sort of why I'm doing this work for empathy circles, and because what I try to do is to give my kids a shot, a chance, and I'm feeling that they don't have that much anymore. Those supports are going away, and I think that if people listen to each other more like this, a lot more students would have a lot more shots. I'll stop there.
Okay, so Bill, you're saying that your reason for being involved in empathy circles is to kind of look to the future. And you mentioned kids, I guess children you were involved with.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give them a shot because you feel that those supports are actually weakening, and they're so that's. Was there anything I missed there?
No, just that the listening, the idea of really listening to each other and giving us that emotional gift could proactively stop a lot of trauma, and then also help heal a lot of trauma. I'll stop there.
Okay, so you're saying that this skill of active listening
Mm-hmm.
can help prevent trauma and violence.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's your reason then for being engaged with it.
Great. Thank you, Alex. I feel fully heard. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to Candace.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So hi, Candace.
Hello, Alex. Yeah.
So this is an interesting topic for me, the feeling of reason, and I also I find fascinating that duality that's there between feelings and reasoning. Often we tend to look at them separately, and I think it's also difficult to bring those two things together in a person's experience. So I'm going to stop there.
All right, so my understanding is that you're talking about the duality of feelings and reason, and how people kind of struggle to integrate the two within a person's experience. So I'm going to stop there. Did I capture what you're saying?
Yeah, you did, and that there's a kind of fascinating element to it, and kind of an interesting element to all of that. Yeah, so for me, feeling, I guess feeling means something that kind of happens to us, almost like a passive, something happens outside of me and I react with a feeling. And reason tends to be more active. It's something that we decide to do, and we take these steps. We ask questions, like Eva was saying before. And so that's how I see that opposition between the two.
Okay, so my understanding is that feeling is the result of something outside ourselves happening to us. So when we reason, we make a decision and we act. But when we feel, we're responding to the outside. Is that correct? Have I heard you correctly?
Yeah, great. Yeah. But what's interesting is when it seems like when people get together and start talking, that really enables those two things to come together, the feeling and the reason. Somehow just being in a circle, being in a discussion group, being listened to, being heard, and also addressing other people. Somehow that, it really, I mean, it's an emotional experience, but it's also a thinking experience.
Okay, so when people come together and they communicate with one another, not only are they actively reasoning, but it's an emotional, that communal experience is an emotional one as well. So I think that's my understanding of what you said.
Yeah,
Something? Okay.
that's great. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna leave it here. Thanks. I feel fully heard.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to choose to speak to Maris. Is that okay? Am I saying your name correctly?
Sure, it's Maurice.
Maurice, sorry.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're
Maurice.
good.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk about what the feeling of reason means to me, and what it means to me, especially as an RN, is a feeling of confidence, because people need to be able to feel safe, and they need to feel like they're heard, because as a nurse, critical thinking is strongly emphasized. But for me, the feeling of reason is the nurse's capacity, but also the patient's capacity to kind of like take response, to be an active participant in their care. Or as a nurse, it's my responsibility to become an active participant in my learning. And it's also about my confidence in my ability. Oh,
sorry. There was just a bit there. Can you just slow down a little? So
I apologize. Yeah,
no, don't apologize. Is it all right if I write something down? Because I have.
Absolutely, yeah, it's
okay?
a lot.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So why don't we stop here, and why don't you, Maurice, why don't you reflect what you understand right now? And then
so if I can, if I understand correctly, like one of the things that you'd like to take away is confidence, so that as an RN, people feel safe and heard, but also that in terms of critical thinking, and this is the part that I was hoping you could maybe unpack a bit more, or just repeat again.
Absolutely. The critical thinking component, it means that as a professional, I trust in my own ability to problem solve. Just to gather the information and the ability to sort of solve problems as an independent practitioner. Yeah.
So can I reflect back a bit? So
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's, you want to, if I understand correctly, you want to be able to trust in your own problem solving ability and
absolutely
be an effective and independent practitioner. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Correct. Okay, so because I feel like for me, the feeling of reason is what impacts my ability to care for my patients, but to also basically create that therapeutic relationship between myself and the people that I'm caring for, because I want them to feel safe. And if I'm confident, then I know that they can trust in me as well.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, that the confidence comes from you being able to use your reason and critical thinking to create a safe space for your patients. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Maris. I feel heard.
Thanks for reflecting and being patient.
No worries. No, that's fine. That's okay. Yeah.
I can't remember
so
who's.
That's okay. Okay, so Marty hasn't, I believe, and also Rob.
Okay, cool. Marty, are you okay to actively listen?
Sure.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so a lot of what I think about the feeling of reason is very similar to what people have said already. The duality between what I think of as two separate ideas of feeling, emotion, and reason it's hard for me to bring those together. I'll pause.
So what you're saying is that you're kind of repeating what other people had said, and that what you find interesting is the duality between reasoning and feeling. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's great. I think I struggle with emphasizing analytics and reasoning, and I want to be able to bridge intuition, which is, to me, I think is like a synthesis of like emotion and reasoning. I'll pause.
So what you're saying is that you want to, sorry, I'm trying to remember, bridge the analytics and the reasoning with your intuition?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I find that I overemphasize analytics and logic and I think it's detrimental to the emotion, and try to dissociate those two components. But I think being able to gauge or interact with people effectively is being able to bring those two together.
So I think what you said is that you overemphasize the logic and analytic piece versus the feelings piece. And if you want to interact better with other people, you really need to bring the two together.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I struggle with that because I'm not always sure if that's the right thing to do. So, but that's all.
So that's your struggle, because that's what you have. Yeah, well, that's what your struggle is. Okay. Sorry.
Yes. No, that's okay. Yeah, that's all. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, I can't remember. Am I supposed to say something?
No, you're the speaker now, and then talk to Rob right now, because Rob hasn't had a chance.
Rob, is it okay if I speak to you?
Yeah, this doesn't sound. This sounds like it's difficult. Oh boy, I'll do my best.
Okay. So for me, I kind of have been approaching this differently. I hope I've got it correct. Is that for me, the feeling comes first, and what I try to do, or what I've been trying to do, is I get the feeling under control right away, and then I move on to the reasoning and the analytical and logical part. I'll stop there.
Okay, you've been coming at it differently. For you, the feeling comes first, and then you move on to the analytical and the reasoning part. Is that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I think, though, that now listening to the other people here, that I realize that I've probably been going about it the wrong way, and that I should, as Maurice was saying, is like combine the two together. I'll stop there.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Like you said that you think that having listened to people in this circle, that you have been going about it the wrong way, and you would like to work at it the other way, with reason first and moving into feeling.
Well, I guess I really do need to think about that a bit more, but yes, in essence, I guess. The other piece that I've found is that I think that for the reasoning part as well, I kind of sometimes create what I call like a reality bubble around my reasoning. And what I think is more important is to actually do these types of things where you do get other people's perspectives. I'll stop there.
Okay, you create a reality bubble around the reason, and you think it's important to bring in other people's perspectives. That's what you said. Was there something like that? No, okay.
Nope, that's correct, yes. And just one last thing is, because I think what kind of what tweaked me onto this is the other day I was talking to my kids, and I realized that they just take whatever I say at face value, and that's probably not a good thing.
You were talking to your kids, and you realized that they take everything you say literally at face value, and you'd like to find another approach to that.
Exactly. That's about all I had to say.
So,
thank you. I feel heard. Sorry.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks. So I guess it's my turn now.
Yes.
The better listener is Eva. Am I right?
Yeah, no, that's great.
So I should go to Eva? Is that the deal?
Yeah, you can go to Eva, but, after Eva and everybody's had a chance, then, feel free to mix it up. We don't have to go around in a rigid order. That's
Sure.
Rob, I hope I can hear you well, because I'm a little concerned about, like, is it my microphone or something? I can't
No.
really.
It's probably me.
Yeah. Yeah. We can understand you. You just sound like Darth Vader.
I normally sound like Darth Vader. That's
Well, maybe.
Now I'm excited.
Okay.
so fish tank, nice. Okay, so my thoughts about reason and feeling is that, I'm kind of when I talk about some things that argumentative. Yeah, when I talk about things, I tend to be very exacting at times, especially if I'm pulling in reason into this. I think communication is a good thing, but I'm not sure that being precise and exacting is the right way to go. I'm not catching the spirit of things, I suppose.
Okay.
I hear you are questioning reasoning and feeling, but I hear you are a little concerned of concern on if you are really catching the spirit of reasoning.
Yeah, it was more the spirit of communication. Reasoning to me is a precise thing involving a precise language. And I think that if you involve precise language in things, then you sacrifice communication because other people understand things differently. That's why this kind of communication thing, this empathy circle, this active listening, I think is very important. For reasoning and communicating reasoning and breaking this bubble, the reality bubble that you find yourself in when you create a castle of reason, if you will.
I hear you are trying to really understand the concept of communication bubble, and with communication and bringing in the precise language, were you trying to express that you are trying to really, I would say, locate reasoning in that precise language and communication?
Yeah, it's more like finding a way to express the reason with precise language. It doesn't necessarily pierce the bubble. More directly, the next thing I should add is that the feeling I associate most with reason is harmony. Facts or things that fit together in a logical kind of ordering seem to me like music or like notes on a piece of music paper. Things like harmony to me, like something that, if it's a good reason, then it sounds good. If it's bad reason, then it sounds bad. It's discordant, if you will.
Yeah. So I hear you when you put your ideas or thinking in a good order, you feel like it is harmonic and almost like a harmonic song when things are in order. But it gets to be a maybe not such of your favorite song when ideas are not in order. Am I really messing this up, Rob?
No, it's good. Good. Yeah, Backstreet Boys. I think that was Backstreet Boys. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yeah. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you for hearing me, Eva.
Do you feel heard? I would say we have 30
I feel heard. Yes, I felt heard. Yes, we have 30 seconds. That's good.
Thank you. Well, okay. We're doing good with timing. It's almost nearly 3.5 minutes. Everybody likes sharing. So it's my turn now?
Yeah, and I just, one of the things I'll just quickly mention, if you don't mind, Eva, is just that, so right now we've said things and people have said their piece, and you might think, oh, that's what I had to see. But the process, there's something else going on. And so we just encourage you to just kind of stick with it, or if you need to go off topic, that's fine, but just stick with it because there's something else happening here that I don't think is really, so you can then go deeper. So sometimes we feel like if you go past 2 hours, we're not going to do it here, so don't get run away in fright. But if you go past 2 hours, you do get into a much more intense area, much more personal, and people, so that's just another aspect of the circle. That's all. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eva, go ahead.
That's okay. I think I hear what you say, and I'd like to bring, would you reflect, Bill?
Do you want me to reflect you again?
Yes, please. I know
Okay.
it's the same time, same turn,
That's fine.
but
That's it. They're just guidelines.
okay. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Where I want to take the conversation in my side is I've been working on several tools on coaching and young adults and teenagers on their learning challenges or learning gifts.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been questioning what the meaning and the functions of the body for a very long time. And I just wanted to put it into reasoning this time here at this meeting. I am trying to really understand how to reason the concept of body, a
Mm-hmm.
human body, for myself first. Then hopefully that will lead to a client's understanding of their body.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in the light of dealing with your clients and students who deal with learning challenges, you have, and in reflecting upon yourself, you talked about the reasoning of body. In other words, I get, from what I'm understanding, our body is made up of not only emotions, but pains and aches and the freedom of running and things like that, all these other things. And you would like to understand those and how they can be, they can align to help your clients learn.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And my goal there is I am, again, questioning or maybe reasoning the connection of our feelings and our body. Because sometimes we feel something and our body reacts.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes our body feels something and we react with our feelings.
Okay.
So I am wondering if I can question this in a coaching perspective with a coaching partner. We could go somewhere on self reading.
Okay. So in your professional growth, you have somewhat of a chicken or the egg problem, as we say, that do like reasoning, gender feelings or in the body, and which they can, and then the body can have feelings or have a reaction that then engenders our intellect and our emotional state. Sorry. And so you're wondering exactly how those things go back and forth, and then how you can also use it in your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one powerful moment that I like while practicing this with a coaching partner is when I ask them, where is your body? And of course, they will first say, it's here. And I would ask, like, what is your proof? How can you prove me that your body is there? And then I ask them to locate their body, their being in different perspectives. And that gives me a clue on how my coaching partners see his or herself.
Okay. So one of the keys in when you're doing this with a coaching partner, and I assume also sometimes with a client, you'll say, where's your body? And then they'll say, here. And then you'll ask for, well, prove it to me, which will require them to elaborate. And depending upon how they choose to describe their body will give you keys to how they feel about their body and themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I am hoping that this tool will go to a point in my coaching partner's eye that they really understand that they are responsible from their body and they are the owners, they are the masters of their body.
Okay. So the purpose of this exercise is to give people a deepened experience of their body and the responsibility for it, and then also understanding that the client is going through a similar process.
Thank you. I feel fully heard, and we have, there, our time is off.
Okay, great. All right. So Candace, would you listen to me?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Okay. So interesting, things that I've heard. I am interested in paradoxes, seeming paradoxes, because I think that paradoxes are not paradoxes. It just means we don't understand yet. And so I'll stop there.
Okay, so you just talked about the concept of paradoxes, but the thing with paradoxes as you see it is that it's more due to our own lack of understanding. It's not that the things are really paradoxes. Am I correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what, so I found myself in my professional life, I would have students who would be, 2-3 years behind. And, there would be a lot of bureaucratic pressure to catch them up to, which meant, excuse me, intensive kind of, intellectual processes. I'll stop there.
Okay, so there's a lot of pressure put on you by the bureaucracy to help these students to catch up.
Right.
And yeah, I'll stop there. Did I get that correctly?
Yeah, right. And so giving them more math, more this, more that. Yeah, that was it. And what I found is that, first of all, I made that their own self-regulation was just as important as math. So I'll stop there.
Okay, so it's not just the skills that they're learning, but it's their own self-regulation that's equally as important as their education.
Right. So I always told them, if you need to take 5 minutes to calm down, whatever, I trust you. And I trust that if you're working on really controlling yourself and trying to get back in the classroom, we had a desk outside the classroom. They could sit at the desk for 5 minutes with, no consequence whatsoever. I'll stop there.
Sorry. So you trust in your students' ability to self-regulate. So that means that if they need time to calm down and sit outside, they're free to do so without any kind of punishment, and that's okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and not only that, but I wanted to really make it real for them that they were doing work. That by doing that, they were doing work just as valid as math or social studies or science. And so that they could then take control of that process, that I saw that struggle and that I respected them. I'll stop there.
Okay, so when your students decide to take control of themselves, that is also a form of work. And that you as their teacher, you want to be able to recognize and affirm that as well. Did I catch you? Yeah.
Right. And from that basic, and when they did come in the classroom, then they were self-assessing that they were feeling ready to learn and that the learning outcomes were better. I'll stop there.
Okay. So when they return to the classroom, they feel more equipped to learn, and once they have that kind of confidence in themselves, they're able to learn more effectively. Is that correct?
Yes. And I summed it up by saying to my students, I said, you are children dealing with adult problems, and there's no more difficult thing in the world to do. And so therefore, you have my respect just walking in the classroom. But that doesn't mean that you still have to meet certain, milestones and behaviors. And that's it.
Okay, so you basically affirm them by saying that they're children dealing with adult issues, and that they already have your respect. But even though they have that respect, they still need to be able to meet certain milestones.
Right. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, good. Okay, so Alex, will you listen to me next?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. So with regard, I guess I'll continue on from the last time where I was talking about my nursing practice and reason and also like reason and feeling. I guess what I was also trying to say is that I'm a relatively new nurse. I've been nursing for 2 years, and I think that what's important as a relatively new nurse when you have somebody that's preceptoring you, it's important for new nurses to feel like, again, they are able to work their way through problems and solve their problems to provide effective patient care. So I'll stop there.
Okay. So you said that you're picking up where you left off last time you spoke.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned that you're a relatively new nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And so for new nurses, it's important to be able to use reasoning in a certain way. So I'm going to ask you to repeat that if you can.
Well, we have to be able to trust in our ability to solve problems to provide effective patient care. Yeah.
Right. So it's important, being a relatively new nurse,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to trust in your own, to have that confidence that you can provide the adequate care that you're there to provide.
Yes, and part of the reason why confidence in yourself as a practitioner is so important is because as a nurse, your patients need to be able to trust you, because if they can't trust you, then they don't feel secure with you. And I'll stop there.
So I'm hearing you say that as a nurse, it's important for patients to be able to trust you. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems that that trust is connected with your confidence, the kind of
Mm-hmm.
confidence that you project.
Yes. Okay. And also, we have something called the therapeutic relationship, which is oriented towards the patient. It's not a reciprocal relation. It's not a personal relationship, which is reciprocal. So it's all about the patient. It's part of patient-centered care. So when I'm taking care of a patient, all those skills that I'm picking up, the confidence, but also the active listening, it's oriented towards them to basically facilitate that patient's well-being.
Okay, so I'm hearing you say that, so you're contrasting two kinds of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So there are personal relationships which are reciprocal, but the professional relationship with a patient is a therapeutic one,
Mm-hmm.
where you don't have that reciprocity, but it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like it's asymmetric. And so your focus really is on the patient. And so you need these skills to be able to, provide them with the care that they need.
Yes, thank you, Alex. I feel heard.
Okay, great. Thanks, Candace.
You're welcome.
So I'll speak to Rob, if Rob, you're up for it.
Yeah, I'm just mute there.
Okay, great. So I have been enjoying this discussion that we've been having, and it's interesting. I'm not used to having it's sort of a discussion that kind of goes in this way, and but I'm finding that there are a lot of interesting things that people are saying, and I'm trying to make sense of them as we go. So I'll leave it there.
It's an interesting thing. You're following all the different threads of discussion, and I guess it's giving you lots of food for thought.
Yes, that's correct. So a couple of things that are standing out for me, and that actually I would like to hear more about, because I've been wondering, what does that mean? one thing that Marty mentioned was the reality bubble. That was interesting to me. And also Maurice mentioned intuition. And I found that interesting as well. So I'll stop there.
Okay, the things that stood out to you were that you wanted to find out more about were Marissa's thoughts or take on intuition. She mentioned intuition, and Marty and his the thought bubble or the reality bubble. Sorry, the reality bubble take.
Right. Yeah. So for me, what's been coming up about reasoning, and I've been thinking lately, how does a person, I guess really generally, how does a person do things and maybe make a change in their life? And I've been learning that often, even without knowing it, we do things on autopilot, and we don't, we may do things without really having the awareness.
Okay, so you're wondering about how people make a change in things, and you find that often people are just going autopilot. Did I get it all?
Yeah, basically. So I've been noticing all the ways that I've been doing that, and I've been finding some tools to help, to help change that. And one of what seems to be very important is to be questioning oneself. To be asking questions of, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What's the, what's the purpose? Is this really making me happy? And the other side of it is to keep some kind of record. This is what I've been learning, to to take down, this is what I did over the last day or over the last week or over the last month, and so that in a way to have some data to be able to reflect.
Yeah, you were talking about tools to change the way that you do things, and you found that you're questioning why you did things, and we're trying to find out the logic of it was helpful. You also found that keeping a journal, a record of things that you could go back over for yesterday, the day before, the last month, was useful.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. I feel heard, and I'll pass.
Okay. Marty, how about Marty?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was all very. I agree with Alex that there were many interesting things that people have said. The dedication to active listening in a professional capacity, awesome, and the interaction of intuition I thought was very interesting too. For the reason, reason is there's so many options that you have there. You have to let intuition play a role too.
So like Alex, you found this conversation very interesting, and oh, sorry, I forgot. I remember you found intuition interesting, but sorry, I can't remember the two middle things you mentioned.
Back to listening in a professional capacity.
Professional capacity, yes. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. No, that's good. Let's see now. Yeah, so I don't know. It's like when I think through problems, sometimes they're difficult and insurmountable, or they're difficult to come through in one go. And I find that, I don't know, if you take yourself away and stop thinking about it and relax, then intuition comes into play. And I don't know, there's some process in the back there that springs up with an answer, and you go back to it and, oh, I know what the answer is. I didn't know I knew what the answer was.
So what So I believe what you're saying is that problems can be difficult, and sometimes what you have to do is, if you, I could get this wrong, go away from it for a while, and then when you come back to it, it's kind of your intuition kicks in, and all of a sudden you have a solution for it.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like reason and logic is insufficient for difficult problems. There's difficult problems. The ones that you can't find an answer for in the book. You're off the script. You're off the map. You're in a place that you don't have a lot of guidance for.
So you're saying, so there's the difficult problems where you kind of have to go off script, or kind of go, come up with some sort of unique solution, I guess, to those problems. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a unique solution. I mean, very few things in life have not been talked about. Somebody has handled them before. We've handled the shoulders of giants. But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. It's you got it. Yeah. So I'm off on another topic now, aren't I? Yeah. So reason is logic. Reason is gathering facts and putting an argument together. I don't know if there's much more beyond that than like harmony, but I suppose it would be an argument. There could be other emotions that come into a reasoning of sorts, depending on what you're reasoning. Well, there I'm at living.
So I think what I heard was that you're talking that reasoning is more of logic, taking your facts and coming out with the conclusions. So you did mention something about emotion, but I couldn't quite hear you.
Oh, sorry.
No, not a problem.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that it occurred to me that, a purely logical argument is a harmonious thing. It strikes me as being harmonious. But if you're in a debate or a dialogue with someone and an active reasoning component is there, then there could be other emotions that flow out of the reasoning or logical conclusion that you're coming to. There could be, I don't know, there could be all kinds of different emotions. Like, in a therapeutic situation, you might come up with a conclusion that could be very positive, resulting in a happiness, or negative, resulting in a certain amount of sadness.
So if I heard you correctly, so when you do look at these problems, you talked about the harmonious at first, but then talking about where the actual result of your reasoning could result in emotions that could either be positive or negative?
Yeah, I was thinking of nursing in a therapeutic kind of situation with, a Dr. House kind of a person, either coming up with a good conclusion or something that's not so good, less more traumatic, I guess, could result in a happiness or a sadness.
So you're talking about in a therapeutic kind of situation, the result of it could be either happiness or a bad situation.
Yeah, he's talking about the emotions that come up, not as a result of the reasoning that they flow through. And I think I'm done there.
So just to make sure, because to get it right there, so what you're talking about is that the result of the reasoning results in the emotion.
So I feel heard. I feel heard. Thank you, Marty.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
So
I believe Maurice hasn't gone. So
Maurice?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So it was mentioned before about the reality bubble. So I was thinking that maybe I could just talk a bit about what I meant by that. And so what I mean about a reality bubble is the situation where you've kind of come up with a reason for something, and you believe it. But if there's someone outside of your reality bubble might look at your reasoning and go, that is just crazy. Like, why are you thinking it that way? And so what you want to do is try and break out of that reality bubble once in a while to actually confirm that your reasoning is correct.
So if I understand you correctly, you wanted to describe the reality bubble, and it's about when you generate your own reason for something and someone questions your reasoning, you want to be able to break out of that standard way of thinking for yourself. Am I hearing you correctly?
That is correct, yes. And so I know I mentioned my kids before. So one thing we do is, because we know we all do it, is we have kind of a thought experiment. And what it is that we try to figure out what society will think in like 20 years about something that we think is okay today, that in 20 years they'll say, how on earth could you have thought that way?
So if I heard you right, you're talking about the thought experiment that you do with your kids and considering what will happen in 20 years, how will history look at what we think is okay today? Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
And essentially, that's all I had. Thanks. Thank you. I feel heard.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Okay. So Maurice, why don't you pick someone to reflect you, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll do a wrap up after that.
Sure. I think we've had everybody, right? So
yeah, anybody you want.
Sure. Candace, are you okay to listen?
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
Cool, thanks. Yep. I think I was thinking a lot about what Eva was talking about initially. I have somebody who has high levels of anxiety, and sometimes I'll just suddenly be triggered by something and my heart will palpitate, and I find it interesting that when I try to consciously control it, it doesn't always work. So I'll pause there.
So you're saying that as someone who deals with a lot of anxiety, like something will trigger it, will trigger it, you'll have a physiological reaction. And if you try to calm it down or control it, it doesn't always work. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
That's right. And I find it interesting because I try to use logic. For example, if I'm in a safe setting, like my bedroom, sometimes using logic doesn't bring down those symptoms of feeling unsafe. And that to me doesn't match with my expectation that if I'm logical, that I can bring myself back to a safe, psychologically safe situation for myself.
Okay. So you're saying that using logic to control the feeling isn't always successful. So using so you're finding that logic doesn't always help in making you feel safe. Am I correct?
Yeah,
okay,
no, that's definitely right. And I think what drew me towards this particular topic and what I've spoken about before is the sort of I don't know if it's intuition, but a way of bringing together what you're feeling in your body, which can't necessarily be logically broken down, and being able to intuit or understand that there's something happening that goes beyond the realm of logic, if that makes sense.
Okay, so what you're saying is intuition is a way of maybe helping you understand what's going on in your body, because logic as a way of understanding often has its limits. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
All right.
I think that's all I have. I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm glad. Okay, so do I choose another person now?
Well, we can. We're coming to the end of our time.
That's fine.
And that's fine to go on. I think we start to see that things got a little deeper as we went on, and that's another use for the circle. So I don't know if people wanted to go on. I'm fine for it, or we can wrap up, and we can have maybe do a wrap up, and then people who have to take a break and have other things to do can do that. And then if some people want to do a few more rounds, that would be fine with me. The only thing I'll say is for intuition is if you take a look at my shirt here, that is the Mayan representative. That's what they call the dark star. Essentially, they had a concept for the black hole at the center of our galaxy before the age of telescopes. So that, and they had a concept of dark energy too. So I think they might have been a little bit more advanced in their use of intuition than we suspect today. Anyway, it's interesting, whatever it is. And so I wanted to say thank you. And then I thought that we just do maybe 30 seconds to a minute of a reaction. And then we could wrap up. And then if for some people have some more questions or want to go a couple of rounds, I'd be fine with that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Alex, why don't you start us off?
Sure, I can do that. Well, I feel grateful for being a part of this group and that we had this meeting this afternoon. What's really standing out for me is the notion of harmony. I was just thinking how there's just so much harmony when this process is in place. And I agree that for me that's one of the things that reason means. That people can come together and different kinds of people from different places and have this kind of discussion. So it's been a good experience. Thanks.
Sure, thank you. Marty?
So I'm going to be totally honest here. I was completely nervous while doing this. So for me, the biggest part was the active listening. And I realized I really do have to practice that a lot more. I think it is so important, the active listening. But like you said, as with any skill, you've got to keep practicing it. So I'm hoping to do more of these in the future.
Great, thanks. Are you complete, Marty?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, great. All right, Rob.
Oh yeah, I agree with Marty. This is great practice, active listening. Yeah, it's like using your ears instead of your eyes when you're reading stuff. Some people have a photographic memory, other people have an audio memory. They remember things that are old. I think I'm more of a photographic kind. I remember things I see more than things I hear. So it's very good exercise to exercise my hearing skills. So I hear things and can remember the whole details. So I would go for calling and I have to go because it's dinner time and I can certainly smell something going on over there. To go soon.
Great. Okay, thanks, Rob. Candace.
Yes, I must say I really did enjoy this activity because this is my first time hearing about an empathy circle, and I'm really thankful for this group because I don't know as many spaces where people gather for the specific purpose of listening to one another. It's very different from the kinds of gatherings that I normally see where it's usually a debate and one side is trying to win. But here, like, nobody's trying to win anything. We're just really more interested in intentionally listening to one another. And that's something that I really appreciate. And I hope that we can do this again.
Great. Maurice?
Yeah, I think it was, I like Marty. I was really nervous and found it really, really helpful. I'm very grateful for everybody who listened to me. And it's something I really do, again, want to practice. I find if people are okay with me writing stuff down, it's a lot more helpful. So, because I control remembering stuff. So
Great. Yeah, whatever you need. Okay. Well, I just want to appreciate all of you meeting people. I've been in this work for about 1.5 years, and it's just so nice to see people who are, dealing with some of the same issues and things like that I deal with. And that, in our fractious society, I think it's just a really excellent tool. The joke I make, and I think this is somewhat real, is that you didn't know me 2 hours ago, but right now you'd let me house sit. And so, and that's, it's not clingy. It's just like, I don't know that guy. It's okay. And so hopefully we can spread that throughout. I'd love to do more circles and stuff like that. And then, I'm sorry, I'm going to throw it to you, Eva, to do your checkout and then, your wrap up because it's your group.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were finished, Bill.
Oh, that's fine. I am now.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to give my opinion about the group too. And I feel like it's each group is an experience with their own its own subject, but I kind of had a feeling like once I know more people here, and I feel like some things are opening up in my brain. And if okay with you, I'd like to just share with you the picture I took here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see our picture now?
Yeah, looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. And Bill, thank you for hosting and facilitating and guiding us. And I hope we can have more discussions about maybe different subjects. I took notes, and I have to say, many of the titles deserve an Empathy Cafe meeting. So we were talking a lot about a lot, and I think I had titles for a year of Empathy Cafe for our group.
I have one suggestion for a topic that I heard, reason and intuition.
Yes, yeah, that's powerful too. And I have one question, Rob. Well, it's like a personal question, but I couldn't stop but wonder, you mentioned harmony and songs a lot in your conversations. Are you a musician?
No, I'm not.
Okay, that was interesting.
No, I just like music, that's all.
Okay. 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 So I guess we are done for today. Do we have any friends who would like to give another comment or give any opinion about